So Bill Maher had Steve Bannon on as a guest during his show on Friday, and they got to a point in the interview that I found very interesting and very relevant. So let's take a look at it, and then I'm going to break it down.
I want to
Eventually you'll see the light.
pick your brain on the Democrats.
Okay.
Because you, of all people, I want the answer to this. Who scares you? Who do you think could do good? How do you handicap the people? What do you think about Elizabeth Warren? What do you think about Bernie Sanders? What do you think about Kamala Harris? What do you think about Gavin Newsom? What do you... Okay, I know you like them all. Eric Holder. What do you think about all these people? And then I say Michael Avenatti. I saw that tweet he wrote the other day, and I said, he could be the Trump of 2020, the guy who's the outsider who like blows through the regular politician because he looks different and he's got balls.
If Bernie Sanders had an ounce of Avenatti's fearlessness, he would have been the Democratic nominee, and we would have had a much tougher time beating.
Bernie doesn't have fearlessness?
Not like Avenatti. Avenatti, and I've not done any due diligence on this guy.
Right.
But I'm telling you, he's got a fearlessness.
Right.
And he's a fighter. He's a fighter.
Right.
I think he'll go through a lot of this field if he decides to stick with it, like a sift through grass. Now, I don't happen to think a professional politician, because I think we're in a new age, I don't think a professional politician is going to be there at the end of the day. I've always said it's going to be someone like Oprah or an Avenatti or somebody that's more media savvy is going to be there. But I think one thing people
think that's good?
I think it's just a reality of today. I think you need to know how to handle mass communication.
Be a star first.
If I can say one thing, I do think this campaign after November 6th, which is really Trump's first reelect, if we lose the House, he's going to get impeached. This is a referendum on him. If we get past that, If we get past that, I think in 2020, you're going to have Trump on the right, a politician, maybe a Kamala Harris or somebody on the left, and I think you'll have a Bloomberg or a Romney or somebody in the center. I think it'll be a three-way race.
I hope so, because if it's a three-way, they will take away enough votes to make sure Donald Trump never wins again. But now...
Bill Maher just doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about anymore. He has gone a little too far off of the deep end. He's become so obsessed with the anti-Trump hysteria that he thinks Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' fucking lawyer, the porn star who had sex with Donald Trump, her lawyer, that's who you want to be 2020? That's who you want to run in 2020? I mean, maybe he doesn't want him to run. He says, I mean, I saw that tweet he did the other day, and I gotta say, he could be the Trump of the left. No. You know why? Because Trump could never exist on the left, Bill Maher, you dunce. The reason why the left is not so susceptible to authoritarian dingbats like Donald Trump is because the left actually, for the most part, is a policy-driven wing of the right-left paradigm. We actually have policies to make people's lives better, to end wars, to do infrastructure, to, get free college, health care. We have all these proposals, but what the fuck? Like, nobody cares about Michael Avenatti because he tells it like it is. You think to beat Trump, you need another Trump? That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard, Bill Maher. Why do I even still watch your show? I mean, Jesus. And Steve Bannon kind of disagreed with him, even though he said that if Bernie had like an ounce of the, whatever the fuck he said, like, if Bernie had an ounce of the courage that Avenatti had, he would have beat Hillary Clinton. How about if Hillary Clinton didn't cheat Bernie Sanders out of the primary, Bernie Sanders would have won, hands down. There's not a single poll you can find me that shows Donald Trump ahead of Bernie Sanders. Not a Fox poll, not a CNN poll, nothing. Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in the entire country, but you don't bring him up when you're thinking about who you would want to run for 2020. Now, Steve Bannon did mention like Kamala Harris, and I think she wants to run for president, but she's not going to be the candidate for the Democratic 2020 nomination. And here's why. Because Bernie Sanders is going to get it. It's that easy. And if you try the same thing you did last election by splitting the Democratic vote between the identity politics of the Democratic Party that we love to see so much of, we would probably be better off with Bernie Sanders, but a lot of Democrats out there are going to vote for somebody like Kamala Harris just because she has a vagina and that's it. Even though she's not as progressive as Bernie Sanders, even though she isn't as qualified as Bernie Sanders, and even though she's been beholden to special interest in her past. And now she has changed that, apparently. She says she has. But I would rather trust the person who's never been bought off, the person who's been doing this his whole life, and the person who has the majority of the Democratic base behind him. And even the Republicans have a high favorability of Bernie Sanders, even higher than some of their own candidates in the last election. Just think about that. A Democratic socialist or social democrat, whichever word you want to use to describe him, was more favorable to Republicans than some of their own nominees. But Bill Maher thinks if you run a porn star's lawyer against Donald Trump, then we would have a fighting chance. Get over yourself. You are so out of touch. There, like the week before this on the show, maybe 2 weeks ago, he boasted about giving $1 million to Democrats for the midterm elections. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, that's a great thing. He gave $1 million to Obama's campaign. I'm sure he's given money at other times to other elections as well. But that's the reason we're fighting to get money out of politics, is so one individual can't contribute $1 million. That's insane. And there was even another guy on one of his panels who's a multimillionaire. And Bill Maher's like, well, if you care about Democratic politics so much, why don't you just spend a lot of money to the campaigns? And he's like, 'cause that's not right. And he's right. You're not virtuous by throwing your wallet at a cause. What's virtuous about a cause is believing in the actual tenets of that cause, believing in the policy positions that will advance us forward, and not these dumb little political party tricks you want to pull by running somebody like Avenatti, who nobody knows what he stands for. He's a porn star's lawyer, and he thinks because he has time on the mainstream news outlets like CNN and MSNBC and all these stations that are willing to give this guy airtime because he's anti-Trump and he represents the resistance, whatever the fuck that's become. We need to focus on who's really going to help us beat Donald Trump, and that's Bernie Sanders. And if he doesn't run, then run somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, maybe Kamala Harris. I would really prefer not Kamala Harris. Not a Cory Booker, a progressive. We need progressive blood in the White House.